Lead generation is bullshit.
Welcome to Monfre Tell the Truth, where we shine a bright light on the mirth and the myth and the mysteries of marketing and sales. But most of all, what we do is we tell the truth to help you get to the sweet, sweet promised land of beautiful KPIs, because who doesn't want that? My partner in crime, Jason Myers, is here. I don't know what he's talking about half of the time, but I know he's telling the truth. How are you doing, Jason?
I'm doing great.
What's going on, man?
What
are we talking about today?
We've got a big topic today. It's going to rub some people the wrong way.
Well,
I know you like that.
I got to change my view here. Okay. You're going to rub people the wrong way.
That's right.
Are you ready? That does seem perfectly in character for you.
That's right.
Lay it on me, man.
I don't like to do that.
Lay it on me.
All right. Lead generation is bullshit.
Lead generation is bullshit?
Yes.
Well, all right. I won't jump in just yet. Explain yourself, young man.
That's it. That's the show.
It sounds very truthy. Lead generation is bullshit, but doesn't business run on, isn't everyone hassling you and I constantly about their lead generation?
Yes.
But it's bullshit.
Yes.
So tell me why that is. Why do you think that? I think you're nuts, but go ahead.
So 5 years ago, I wouldn't have been saying this. I don't think I'd even say it 5 months ago. Just kind of had my eyes opened. So, 5 years ago, you wanted to generate leads. You would put out some content, put it behind a landing page, make sure that it's valuable, distribute it to your audience, and then people would download the form and give you a lead. So is that working anymore? Kinda, but I think people are onto the game. They know what's happening. So when I see an ebook, I have to really want that ebook, or I'm not going to download it, or I'm going to give you a fake email address. Why?
That's a big one.
I don't want your spam. I don't want your reps calling me 5 minutes after I download the form. I'm not ready to talk to you yet. And so what is going on across the board. And then furthermore, I think that, companies that are focused on creating this wonderful customer experience across the board, we just throw that out the window when it comes to prospecting. Prospects, you don't count. You're not a client yet. So I'm going to try to get you into my sales process no matter what. It's not about you, it's about me. That's what lead generation has come to today.
I think of SaaS companies ramming like demos down people's throats.
Absolutely.
But I want to come back to that. We're going to split it up. So your first thing, the first big idea was this idea that you're going to produce valuable content. You're going to use the different channels to put that content in front of people. You're going to take that content, put it behind an email wall. And the expectation is they're going to fill out a form. And that's a MQL, marketing qualified lead. And we do know that form fills are dropping overall. Now, is it because of, is the content, what if it's that the content isn't compelling enough? What if it's not doing a good job of establishing its value? Is the whole thing dead, or is it that?
So it's not dead completely. I just think that it takes brute force to get it to work anymore. So
even with a good message.
Even with a good message.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's always true.
I agree.
It's always true that you want to provide the most value you can behind the landing page.
Well, I think you have to describe it really well. This is where a conversion writer is gold, right? Because you have to describe it really well. You don't want to come off like Dan Kennedy. It's a little outdated, right? But you want to tell people what they're going to learn. Like if you're doing this, I see this actually all the time. The landing page with the form that they've expended a lot of resources to get people there, right? To get eyeballs there. It really is a sales pitch for the product or the company or the service, but it isn't a sales pitch for the thing that's behind the form. Does that make any sense? Like,
yes, but
it's too early. Just convince them to
getting rid of those too. So
say that again.
I said I'm advocating getting rid of those as well.
Get rid of the forms.
So the only forms that you should have for anything are webinars, live
register, right?
demos,
We're having good luck with all that stuff.
contact us in some form, consultation, whatever that looks like.
Okay, so there's still an incentive though. Because I see this a lot. Contact us, and then my first thought is, why?
Well, right. And
What's in it for me?
So if you get rid of the landing pages, say on your white papers, your infographics, your videos, God forbid you've got them on your case studies, take them off right now.
You tell them, Jason.
It's all about educating and really understanding the customer journey, whatever that looks like. And if it's a complex sale, there's going to be multiple ones. But what do we have to do to nurture them, to get them to a point where they are sales ready? So they're going to take a call from a salesperson, reach out. That's what we want. We want the hand raisers.
Right. So I don't know if everybody understands this. I mean, in the game of lead generation, because I had somebody ask me the other day, if they're already in my database, why do they got to fill out a form? Well, the idea is they're raising their hand saying, I'm interested out of all of those people in your database. But now with data, with the power we have with data, it's kind of obsolete. And
especially if you already have them in the database, why are you putting an additional barrier in front of them?
When you can track
on it.
Right. There's software now that you can monitor them reading it.
Right.
Like, you know what paragraph they're on. Now,
I don't know about that, but yes.
I know a guy that his company does this, and he calls them up right in the middle of their reading the proposal. Do you know Ruben? I don't know if you know Ruben,
no,
but it's pretty amazing. But I don't like it. And another one, info. Have you ever worked with?
Customers don't like it either.
I was just going to say their name, but I'm going to leave it out. But it's a company that is a big data company, and literally you'll be on their website and they will call you. And I'm just like, a lot of times I'm getting counts of how many people fit this profile, how many fit that profile, and they want to sell you a list, and I don't buy lists. So I'm kind of gratuitously using their software, but it's like, I totally understand why they're calling me, and it actually might work for them, but it's the brute force that you're talking about, and brute force is expensive.
And when that first started, that worked for a lot of them, and they were impressed by your follow-up. Why? Because not a lot of people were doing it.
True.
It's like this analogy, Ken Limpet, I'll give him a shout out, from Austin Lawrence Group, likes to use. It's a bunch marketers and sellers are like a bunch of 8-year-olds playing soccer. Everybody's going to the ball.
Yes. That's funny. That's a funny one. It's true, though.
Everybody's using those tactics. We know what they're doing. There's no surprise anymore. In fact, now it's just annoying.
Right. Well, I have to say, we're still getting form fills throughout, different clients. It is getting more difficult. We have to increase our reach a lot compared to 5 years ago. But you said you had a second point, and you said companies that are focused on customer experience, for some reason, when it comes to lead generation, they just toss it out the window.
Right, because we're putting a form in front of us, or we're making them harder to get the information. We don't look at how they want to research and what's the next logical thing that we should be sending them to. So I'm not saying don't nurture them. I'm not saying don't send them another piece of content or put links to other content that is appropriate and along that same line. But you need to think about that,
right,
instead of trying to call them immediately and figuring out if you can put them into your sales process.
Well, yeah, I experience it daily, really. But it's an interesting way to look at it. I think, though, that one of the caveats here is right now the complexity of doing it without the form, the landing page, the email. One of the things it has going for it is it's simple, relatively simple, right? Marketing gets super duper complicated, but it's still relatively simple. So it's kind of the domain of companies that are taking advantage of data-driven systems and have the infrastructure in place to do away with those things. I think for the mid-size, for the second stage companies, for the small companies, it's still something. If you're not using an incentive, like in other words, something that they can download, it could be a video, it could be an infographic, it could be a paper, it could be just about anything that has true value, and you're not offering that at all, and you're just saying contact me, you are doing it wrong. That's not going to work.
I'm not saying that. I'm still saying put up that content. I'm not saying don't build the content. You build it. You just don't put a barrier in front of it.
Well, what about the person that wanders off the street and finds your content and they just download it and you never know about them, that you don't even know they exist? Do you care?
Not if you've done your job right on the content.
Right, because that content then should lead them to a call to action where they take some sort of act. They go from passively reading it to actively contacting you, reaching out. So again, you know what? This is coming back to having super compelling content that is extremely relevant to people.
I mean, you think that business development, you're picking up the phone, that you're going to convince somebody to buy something when they otherwise weren't. You're not.
Oh, of course not. I mean, I argue about this on Reddit all the time. Like beginner salespeople, their whole idea is that they just harass someone enough, they're going to buy eventually. And if you give enough typewriters to enough monkeys, they're going to write Hamlet too. But I think that lead generation is bullshit if your content isn't relevant. It's not enough just to be relevant anymore. You have to be real. You have to understand your target so well that you get inside their psyche with your content.
Yes.
And they see their problem, right? And if you're doing this right, you've built your credibility. They know what your value prop is. They know what makes you different already because you're out there in the market all the time. They're at a different place in their journey. They're living their pain, and the relief valve is a link to your personal email.
That's exactly right. And I think, when I first say that, lead gen is kind of bullshit, marketers freak out. It's like, well, what are we going to sell then? Like, what are we going to do?
Well, yeah, you mean as an industry, right? You just said our whole industry's bullshit, you son of a bitch.
But I didn't, because your job as a marketer is to figure out exactly what you were just talking about.
Right.
Build the content that's going to lead them down that path. That's your job.
Well, yes, and these are important things, but really our job is bigger than that. I mean, it's really translating those objectives into compelling content and then creating those structures of communication that really, I always think of the rat in the cage, right? Like, in a sense, whatever the action is that we want, our call to action, it's a behavior that we've determined ahead of time that we want you to take. Just like we want the rat to push the lever, right?
Yep.
So we create an incentive, which is the treat, right? Which is the paper, which is the thing, which is the content for the rat to push the lever. And so it comes down to some pretty basic psychology. But if you don't communicate it well, you might have the greatest piece on earth, right? But if you don't communicate it well, it's not going to happen. And then if you back way up, and I run into lots of companies like this, they don't have landing pages. They don't have anything, but they still have this expectation that people are just going to pick up the phone and call them. Not happening.
Well, if they've done the content well, then they might. I mean, you still have to get...
How many people do content well?
I mean, there's still a creative function to both marketing and sales, right? It was the answer 5 years ago. This worked really well. But you could track it. In fact, I had this conversation with a CMO recently, asking about, what are typical statistics? We could say 5% of MQLs are going to turn into sales accepted leads. Those sales accepted leads, 30% are going to turn into qualified leads where we've got a proposal and we're competing for a deal, and then 30% of those are going to close. And we could pretty accurately predict that. That's kind of the whole predictable revenue model, Aaron Ross, and it worked really, really well. The problem is it's not working well, but we're still trying to work off of those metrics. So it is not as predictable. It's harder to get a hold of people. People are not paying attention to our emails. They're not, unless you're getting extremely creative and connecting the dots for them. That works, but that's always worked, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's
researching and actually, doing the work as a salesperson or a marketer instead of getting lazy.
Sure. Well, and full disclosure, I mean, Clarity Marketing Support, we do email marketing for ourselves. We do social, organic social mostly. Most of our business is referral, but we try to keep everything out there. And, we still have people filling forms out. But mostly, we definitely lean towards brute force. One, because over the years, our database is actually pretty big. And so we actually segment it down into smaller, we didn't ever email everybody about everything, but we segment people according to their interest. And that works pretty well. But again, these are more sophisticated. I don't, I just meet a lot of companies that are in the $20-30 million range that are really very unsophisticated about how they go about this. And so that's why I wonder if, if you were to tell a company, let's say a mid-sized company, here's a better way, what would that look like?
So you really have to do things. So there's a marketing answer and there's a sales answer. So for the marketing answer, we've got to get more sophisticated in our tech stacks and how we're looking for buyer intent that identify opportunities that are in market, right? From a sales perspective, I think you've got to get more creative about how you reach out to people, especially within a complex sale. So, I wrote a piece about, following up on inbound leads the wrong way. And the old way was I call them within 5 minutes. The new way is that I sit on it, right? And I do some research on the company, and I try to reach out to other people in the company, and I see if I can get an introduction in. And in a way, I just try to find triggers other than the inbound lead that make me as a salesperson look like I really know what's going on, and I can ask them some kind of impact question that's really going to move them off of their status quo. That's the right way to do it. That's always been the right way to do it. It just takes a lot of time and effort. Very difficult to scale.
Exactly. And I've preached this for years. If you're not doing any marketing and you're just using sales, which companies, you can be successful just doing sales and not even paying attention to marketing. The problem is it will be 20 times more expensive. It is the most expensive way to go to market. If you combine marketing in, you lower the risk and you lower your cost per touch and your cost of acquisition overall, because your salespeople hopefully are only going to be dealing with people who have a legitimate interest in what you're doing. And so I think these are great points. And I think we should talk about this topic more in the future, because, at the end of the day, the honest truth is not trying to, pimp ourselves out or anything. But if you don't have this expertise and you don't understand how to do what we're talking about, you don't have time to learn it. You should bring somebody in who already understands these systems, who already understands the psychology behind this. And that's going to move you faster than trying to internalize or institutionalize some of this knowledge.
And just a warning to companies out there: your innovative competitors are already doing this.
Absolutely. That especially in the big company space, the level of sophistication is actually pretty astonishing, and it's to the point where it's freaking people out even, right? And this latest Apple change, right? I mean, it's all about this very topic, like the way that they use the data. If we can continue to use it ethically, and in B2B setting, B2B being very different from B2C, most corporate buyers don't really care that you know what their pain is and that you have a solution. If you do it really well, they're really happy about hearing from you. So,
Right.
Well, great topic, man. And I think you're right. And we'll, on future episodes, we try to do one of these shows every week or every couple of weeks. And you can find it at tellthetruth.youtube.com. Look up Tell the Truth. And you can find it on the Clarity Marketing Support blog. And you can subscribe to the YouTube channel. And what's the blog? Tell them where they can find it on your end.
Find it at austinlawrence.com.
austinlawrence.com. Is it on the blog?
Yep.
Great. So
a blog and a podcast.
You can find Monfre and Myers Tell the Truth everywhere that great content is presented. And we'll see you next time.
All right.
Over and out. I'm going to beep all that out because it'll be real funny.